Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, folks of all stripes, and distinguished guests, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for die-hard Houston sports fans. From a die-hard Houston sports fan, I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite die-hard Astros fan podcaster. I try to add a little bit more qualifiers in there sometimes just to make sure I am describing myself accurately. I'm an actor, improviser, writer, creative multi-hyphenate, but most importantly, I'm a proud Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. I lived in the Heights in Houston back when it wasn't developed, back when it was just a stop and go over there on Shepherd. But yeah, I've spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer here in Los Angeles, where I live now. And of course, well, you know, after that long of a career in the entertainment industry, I'm podcasting now. That's what happens when you hit 10 years out here. You start absent-mindedly calling it the 10 instead of I-10, and you start podcasting. Welcome to said podcast. Space Cadet Sports started as a passion project because most media is infuriating as a die-hard long-term fan of the Houston Astros and your other Houston sports teams. Here, we aren't doom and gloom casual Astros fans, or worse, the national media haters. We love the team and all of the Houston teams, really I should say, and root them on, but also we'd like to try to discuss the ins and outs of our teams without too much homerism. The key word here, of course, is try. I'd like to welcome returning listeners and, of course, welcome new listeners to what my brother calls the Paul Broad Podball blog. Hey, brother. Shout out to my brothers. Shout out to Arrested Development fans. If you love AD, check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience, or the full blog experience. Sorry, I am a mouthful. Depending on your interpretation of how I pronounce things there. Folks, we're recording this transmission here in sunny Los Angeles, where I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and co-producer, the Ross to my Frasier. Carla the Dog is here with me, as always. Longtime listeners of the podcast know that she may get on mic from time to time. She's got the hot takes on this podcast. I don't know where I'm going with it. What accent that was. Oh, good Lord. We're feeling goofy today. She's got the hot takes on the podcast. I am more like a goofy substitute teacher. I've got the cool takes. If you get angry by traditional sports media, this is a home for you. The world is crazy right now. There's a lot of things going on in the world. There's a lot of things to be angry about. There's a lot of things to be passionate about and go out there in these streets and fight for. The last thing we want right now is for baseball to just be sucking a bunch of energy for us and just making us feel negative all the time. Sports is not supposed to divide us. Here at Space Cadet Sports, we believe in loving our teams and trying to have some positivity come out of it. So this is like a safe space for Houston sports fans. At least we try to make it that way. But folks, oh my goodness, on this episode, the Houston Astros fan roller coaster of emotion continues. We're gonna get Grumpy Paul. Hashtag Grumpy Paul is on the podcast today. Normally I'm full of energy and positivity. Today I'm a little angry. It's hard to be, obviously being a little facetious here, but I am frustrated. The Astros did get swept by the Boston Red Sox, so we'll get to that. We'll figure out what hashtag Grumpy Paul is up to, how he's feeling today. After the high of a great trade deadline, the Astros fans' hopes just come crashing down after being swept by some familiar faces with the Boston Red Sox. We'll get to that a little later, too. Tempers flare in Game 2. The internet pops off. And, of course, foosball is right around the corner. We'll get to all of that. But before we completely get into this episode, I want to wish a good day, mates, to all of our Australian listeners out there. If this is your first time on the podcast, you know I like to brag, baby. I bragged that when this podcast first debuted, we skyrocketed up the charts, just outside of the top 100 of baseball podcasts in Australia. So of course we're a big deal in Australia. We're a big deal in Houston. So shout out to all of my Houston hustlers, all my H-Town fam, and all of my Australians who listen to this podcast and support it. But let's get to it, folks. Let's recap this series. Let's get to hashtag Grumpy Paul. It's a tough one, folks. Like, truthfully, it's tough to get swept. At any time. You never want to get swept. It's never like, I think this was a good time to get swept. It's hard to be that toxically positive. So I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to try to be that. It was very frustrating. I was hoping to see some fireworks. I called for the Astros to win this series 2-1. I know. I failed you. I let all of you down. Now I can't predict the future. Now you know that I have no accreditation in the prediction business. I'm a comedian. I'm a lowly entertainer. And you've caught me. I'm the Wizard of Oz. I'm behind a curtain, just projecting confidence. But no, I truthfully, I did think they were able to win this series, and obviously they were not able to execute that. In this first game, the Astros lost 1-2 in extra innings. In the 10th inning, they got walked off at Fenway by the Boston Red Sox, and it was tough. The Astros have done fairly well in close games this season. You really felt with Correa kind of coming back to the Astros, with the Astros just playing amazing baseball on the road in Fenway Park for the last couple of seasons. It just kind of felt like, they're going to win this game. They're going to figure out a way to win this game here in the late innings. They're going to do it. We have Hunter Brown out there. We have Brian Abreu out there. We have Josh Hader out there. We're going to be fine. We could use Bennett Sousa. It'll be fine. But, folks, that delusion came to a screeching halt as the Astros were just only able to get one run in this game. It felt like it was going to be a big win, and then it just completely fell apart. And this series went the same way as the end of this deflating loss. Let's look at Hunter Brown. Let's see what Diesel gave us. He gave the Astros pretty much everything he possibly could. Hunter Brown went 7 innings in this game, giving up just 4 hits, 1 earned run, only walked 1 batter, and picked up 6 strikeouts along the way. As I mentioned earlier, Brian Abreu and Josh Hader came in to shut it down, folks. The Liz Lemon special. And I truthfully thought, like I said, I was just thinking that this is good. We have our right guys up. All we need is this lineup to do something, do anything. Sousa sadly came in the 10th and gave up the game. But if we remember, I'm not blaming Sousa. The Red Sox have a good offense. The Astros pitching, the pitching staff as a total, they really did a great job against the Red Sox hitters in this game. I'm not bringing up Sousa to be like, well, he lost the game. He's the reason why. Sousa's had a really good season. I like him being in that spot. It just wasn't happening. He gave up he just gave up the game. Unfortunately, gave up some hits. But in my preview, if we go back, I always am saying, go back and listen to the old podcast now. No, but like if you remember, if you recall, and if you want to go back and check the receipts, you're more than welcome to. It's there in the feed. But in the previous podcast, I said that the Astros would need 4 to 5 runs to win some games in this series, and you didn't think that was going to be that big of an ask based off of how many runs they've been scoring on average this season with their previous lineups, even though they've had some struggles lately. With the injection of Jesus Sanchez, with the injection of Carlos Correa, you were hoping that this Astros team would be able to find some more success than they did in this game. It was not going to happen in this game, obviously. They were 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position as an offense. They left 7 men on base. They did get 7 hits as a team. At some point, it just looked like there was, the hits were just coming. We had that Christian Walker home run, but only Jeremy Pena, who was back from injury, and new Astro Jesus Sanchez got more than one hit on this team. So it felt a little bit better offensively than it was, because the team did well as a team getting hits, but they didn't do well in executing and bringing men home. And that obviously was frustrating when the team only could get one run, and all it took was 2 runs to win the game, at least in regulation. At one point, to add insult to injury in this game, Jeremy Pena looked injured. And personally, I was insulted, of course. Jeremy Pena had a moment where we all got worried for him. This was on Apple TV. So, of course, your boy was watching on delay. The great era of pirates have begun. I do think, I didn't get to see the reaction in real time. But I do know that it was very frustrating for Astros fans to see Jeremy Pena come back from injury and already, look like he's having a little bit of a hamstring problem. Let's invest in some bubble wrap. Wrap JP3 in some bubble. In some bubble. Yeah, that's, I knew where that joke was going. I know how to speak words. Let's wrap Jeremy Pena in some bubble wrap is what I'm trying to say lamely. But, truthfully, we don't need injuries. Take care of that man. I was happy to see him pulled from the game as a precautionary measure. I know some people were a little worried, but my goodness, please keep that man safe. This game was overall tough one. I can't believe I've been talking about it for so long. I want to move on. I want to talk about the next games. I want to talk about the next series and preview that. I have to take a quick break. I need to drink some water. I need to calm down before Grumpy Paul completely shows up and ruins this all. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Houston Astros, Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
And we're back, folks. I'm supposed to tell you who I am and what this is. Hi, you're back to listening to Space Cadet Sports podcast. I don't know the name of it either. I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your irreverent host. That's what AI says about me. They say I'm irreverent. I'm your irreverent host. Welcome back to the podcast. Of course, for those of you who listen to just the middle of the podcast, thank you for joining. I'm glad I got to tell you who I was once again. Let's get to Game 2 of the Astros series against the Boston Red Sox, where they got swept, and I wept. Folks, Game 2, the Astros lost 3-7. Early offense gives us some hope, but Colton Gordon had a really tough day at the office. Let's look at his numbers there. Colton Gordon, the left-handed pitcher, got 4 innings in this game, not completely being able to get to the 5th inning, giving up 7 hits, 6 runs, 6 earned runs, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts, with 3 home runs given up in this game. Colton Gordon, I was mentioning that, hopefully he can throw some strikes and stay out of trouble. He was able to throw some strikes. He was not able to stay out of trouble in this game. He was just completely getting pummeled. But when we look at the Astros offense, what did the offense do in this game? They got 14 hits, but they only got 3 runs in support for Colton Gordon. So they were trying to support your boy out there, but they were not able to bring the guys home. They were 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position, leaving 14 men on base. That is a lot of guys on base, folks. I'm no mathematician. I don't pretend to be a statistician or a mathematician or anything, but those numbers are lopsided. If you have that, you're probably not going to win a game when the other team is scoring 7 runs. Obviously this team is adjusting a little bit. Oh, was that Grumpy Paul? Was that Grumpy Paul coming out there maybe a little bit here, folks? Look, I'm not pulling out the official Space Cadet Sports Houston Astros panic meter. I don't think it's time to panic, But Grumpy Paul was not happy with this team getting swept, obviously, here. This team is adjusting a bit here. Let's try to be rational. Normal Paul is back. They're adjusting. I was honestly hoping that they would gel a whole lot more, but alas, there's still some growing pains. There's some growing pains in here, Alan Thicke, with the lineup, at least in this series. But let's look at a little bit of positivity here. Obviously, 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position, 14 men left on base is not going to be anything I write home about. However, let's look at the heart of this lineup. Something I've been saying this whole season is the heart of this lineup has no heart. Actually, I just said that for the first time now. But I've been calling for the heart of the lineup to truthfully do more slugging, get better results. With Carlos Correa here, with Jesus Sanchez here, I really think the heart of this lineup is going to start picking up. Let's look at them in this game. Correa hitting third was 2 for 4 with a walk. Christian Walker was hitting fourth. 2 for 3, 2 RBIs, 2 walks and a home run. Yainer Diaz was fifth. He was 2 for 5 with an RBI. And Victor Caratini hitting 6 was 4 for 5. The heart of this lineup is starting to hit. If we can just get them to hit at the right times, do better in situational hitting, this lineup, I think, will go far. And I do think this is just a little bit of growing pains. Show me that smile, show me that smile. My goodness, I'm in a very goofy mood. I am not, the Thick family, please don't sue me for that terrible rendition of that song. I can't even remember the words to it. I had to stop singing it, not because I was embarrassed, but because I frankly don't remember the TV show theme song of Growing Pains, and now I feel old. That is something that I would be embarrassed to not remember in my 20s. Perhaps that just tells you a little bit of something about me, what my priorities are in this life. But maybe it also tells you that I don't want to talk about this game. Moving on from the Astros offense, having a decent game, but just not good results. The bullpen in this game holds it down. Except for this little feisty moment in the 7th. Hector Neris intentionally balks and sends Trevor Story to third to not get signs stolen at second. And, the Astros and the Red Sox are probably lead the league in intentional walks from second to third. This is fairly common when you have teams that are pretty good, adept at picking up those signs. When you have pitchers that don't hide their grips very well, you kind of are like, maybe we just send that guy to third. We have 2 outs. Let's just move that guy. I thought nothing of it until the third base coach and of the Red Sox and Hector Neris started jawing a little bit. And I didn't even see it. I just heard it from the announcers. I believe that was this wasn't the Apple TV game, so I believe this was Blummer and TK talking about it as they were going to commercial. You hear that something's about to pop off, and then you come back to see that there was a benches clearing moment. Hector Neris is a guy on this team that I would vote most likely to pop off. He's a very passionate player. He's an intense guy, and honestly, I love it. But this was just the time to walk away. And honestly, I didn't think what he did was too egregious, but I do kind of look at the third base coach for the Red Sox a little bit here, because honestly, he's supposed to be a leader. He's supposed to walk away too, and truthfully too, Hector Neris needed to calmate, as I say, for sure. I'm giving both of them, Hector Neris and the Red Sox coach, calmate, just for clarity's purposes here. But, as the coach, you just think he'd be a little bit more mature about it. And also, homie, you work for Alex Cora, and I know what you're saying out there, but Paul, isn't it so ironic and so hilarious to see the Astros complain about sign stealing? Okay, first of all, the Astros weren't saying fish about sign stealing, okay? So those articles and memes are just clickbait. Hector Neris was jawing at somebody about sign stealing. It's not like the Houston Astros came together and drafted up a press release to talk about how they have to keep sign stealing out of the game or anything. Those types of headlines are just clickbait. What happened is a very passionate man in the moment was talking some fish to another man, and that man wasn't going to take it lying down and started talking some fish back to him, right? So all this is emotions, just like Destiny's Child said. It's just emotion. Folks, I truthfully think that this is just one of those stories that like ex-boys and AM radio boomers and internet trolls just feed off of. This just makes them so happy to see. It is ironic. I do get that. It is ironic. But the biggest irony, I feel like, is truthfully lost on people. The biggest irony here is that these two teams have some of the most recent scandals from sign stealing. In truth, the Red Sox sign stealing scandal was more recent than the Astros one, but nobody talks about it. Alex Cora is a huge major factor in both of the team's sign stealing scandalous pasts. But Alex Cora gets a pass. No one thinks about how ironic that is. They just want to beat up on the Astros, so I do get it. I think it's hilarious. I do think it's ironic that Red Sox fans wearing Alex Bregman jerseys are yelling at Hector Neris for something that happened in 2017 when Alex Cora is in their dugout. That's ironic. Just weeks ago, we were saying that John Boy peddles hate, and then this happens, so it's like, I guess it's just, as long as your hate is directed at an Astro, then you can hate as much as you want. Truthfully, fam, I see your moving moral goalposts out there. You love hate and anger when it's directed at me, but not when it's directed at somebody like you. You're clowns. That's what it is. We're always content with hate and anger being directed at somebody else, but not when it's directed at somebody Like, let's just calm. Let's calmate with all of this, with all of this rhetoric. I mean, we need to let this go. It truthfully, folks, it's hard. Like, I live here in Los Angeles. I can't wear my Astros hat without just straight up knowing that I'm going to get in an argument with a total stranger. And that's not how I like to live my life. That's not how I want to be. I was a bartender in Echo Park in Los Angeles. That's like Dodger Town. That's right around the corner from the stadium where I bartended. I bartended in Los Angeles wearing my Astros hat from 2016 to 2020. Obviously, I stopped bartending because of the pandemic. That's a whole other story. That's not for this podcast. But all of the hate, all of rhetoric in the news from John Boy, from stories like this, made my life unsafe. It made me a target for people's hate. And for some reason, that's just okay. So, I mean, grow up. Don't be clowns. Don't fall for this kind of rhetoric, folks. It's silly. Grow up. Move on. Game 3. Astros lose 1-6. This game was this morning. It started at like 8:30 a.m. Carla the Dog and I woke up, went on our walk, and watched baseball for breakfast. And Carla was honestly looking at me like, are we serious right now? Is this what we do now? We wake up and watch baseball for breakfast? I mean, she kind of was happy about it because she gets treats when the Astros do good things. During the game, there wasn't a lot of treats for Carla, unfortunately, in this one. I mean, Theo Carlos, he did hit a home run for her. She gets a Paul Newman treat, which, I mean, she loves those Paul Newman treats. So she got a Paul Newman treat for that. But the Astros lose 1-6. Framber really had a tough inning in a solid outing, but La Grasa finished the day with 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, 6 runs, giving up 4 earned runs, 1 walk and 3 strikeouts. So kind of like just a little bit of a lopsided day for him with the strikeouts there, giving up more runs than he's used to. Caleb Ort and Nick Hernandez came out of the bullpen to give up goose eggs. The 6th run, 4th inning, was just so frustrating. The Red Sox, they got some walks, they laid down some punts, and truthfully, they adjusted to Valdez, and the Astros just could not rebound from that inning when in it and afterwards. The Astros offense went quiet as a team, mustering 3 hits, 1 walk, and 5 Ks, 5 strikeouts as a team. Correa's solo bolo in the top of the fourth was enough to keep me from going to the dark side today, where it's just where I'm just grumpy Paul instead of, I guess, angry Paul. I don't know. We'll have to look at the levels of passion. You're probably asking how they did with runners in scoring position. Well, I'll tell you, 0 for 1. The team went 0 for 1 with runners in scoring position. This game didn't even have opportunities to take advantage of, and you really have to tip your cap. Or you don't have to, but I say you have to. You have to tip your cap to Lucas Giolito. Giolito truly had a day. He had 8 innings pitched, giving up 3 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts in total, and just 1 home run against the Astros. After the team looked pretty decent the day before, I'm just hoping that this is just a great pitching performance that they can bounce back from. Fingers crossed. Folks, we're going to take one more quick break. We're going to come back with a series preview for the Miami series upcoming for your Houston Astros at Miami. We'll be right back.
Houston Astros, Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
And we're back. Folks, had to take another quick break. Carla the dog needed a little bit of extra attention. Folks, let's get to the next series that's upcoming for your Houston Astros. They're playing at Miami tomorrow. That's Monday, August 4th. In Serenity Now, they're sending Jason Alexander up to the mound. Jason Alexander in Vandalay Industries is 1 for 1 on the season with a 7.36 ERA. That is correct. I'm not misreading that. And 25 2/3 of an innings pitched with 20 strikeouts and a 1.83 whip. That's walks and hits per innings pitched for those of you who are new to stats. It's okay. We have all types here. Sometimes I get asked to explain all types of stats. Just let me know. Let me know what you need out there, folks. I do want to meet y'all at least a little bit halfway. I don't want to be too stubborn here. Jason Alexander, he really looked decent, I would say, maybe in his last start against Washington. He had a start where he went he did go for 6 innings. His last start, he went for, didn't get 5 innings in his start. But, we're hoping that Jason Alexander is improving overall and is able to go out there, eat some innings, and keep the Astros in competition. The Miami Marlins will send Sandy Alcantara up to the mound. Apologies there. He is 6 for 9 on the season with a 6.36 ERA. I'm not misreading that either. He has 109 innings pitched with 81 strikeouts and a 1.42 whip on the season. He's been having a terrible season, honestly, and the only thing that looks like it's going right for him this season is his fastball velo, as per Baseball Savant there. So he's got that fastball velocity definitely working. If the Astros can attack that fastball and get some offense going, it could spell great results for them. Obviously, Jason Alexander hasn't had the best season. Sandy Alcantara hasn't had the best season. Whoever scores the most runs in any baseball game is going to win, but we're going to need a lot of runs scored in this one, I worry. So if the Astros can attack the fastball and not get behind in the counts, not get behind in the game, it would really be good for them, specifically in this game. The next game is going to be on Tuesday. Right now, the Astros have TBD going to the mound. The Miami Marlins have Cal Quantrill. He is 4-8 with a 4.79 ERA and 97 2/3 innings pitched with 77 strikeouts on the season and a 1.31 whip, walks and hits per innings pitched. He's got great fastball run value, and he doesn't walk a lot of batters. The Astros are going to kind of have to switch tactics from Alcantara here, and they're going to go for more of looking at those breaking pitches to see if they can sit on the break, do some damage there. Most importantly, they're going to not have to chase those breaking pitches too early, and not chase breaking pitches too early, and barrel some balls to get the pitcher to end his night a little bit early. I think he's more of an innings eater type pitcher, but I think just kind of switching the tactics from those pitchers is what's going to help the Astros offense. In this game, we don't know who's pitching yet, but perhaps this is a Spencer Arrighetti game, coming in to help shore up this pitching rotation. Perhaps this could be a spaghetti time. Maybe it's Hunter Brown or Colton Gordon. We'll look at the next game. On Wednesday, the Astros have TBD going up to pitch as well. So that could be a Hunter Brown, Colton Gordon start, depending on Spencer Arrigetti's health and availability there. We'll see who is available to pitch. The Miami Marlins will send Jansen Junk up to the mound. He's a 30-year-old right-handed pitcher. He's 5-2 with 3.86 ERA and 65 1/3 of an innings pitched, 48 strikeouts, and a 1.10 WHIP. So some pretty decent numbers there. Not too much junk in those numbers. The Astros are not getting to see Ryan Gusto, but honestly, I'm kind of grateful for it, because after the sweep of the Astros in Boston, we need some good PR. Losing to Gusto and the Marlins would have been prime meme material for the ex-boys and trolls out there. Junk is having a great season by the advanced stats. Amazing run value supported by a stellar breaking run value. He gets a lot of chase and doesn't walk hitters, and it's hard to get a barrel on a lot of his pitches this season, but he does give up hard hit stuff. And he has not a lot of strikeouts, obviously. 48 strikeouts and 65 1/3 inning pitch. Very interesting stats. Obviously, if the Astros can get not chase, get some hard hit balls, get the barrel on it, it could spell good results for this Astros offense that desperately needs to rebound here, folks. We need obviously we need starting pitcher health. We need the bullpen to continue as a strength, but more than anything, we're looking at this offense to start gelling. I think they have the right pieces. They have Carlos Correa with the team now. I feel like they're one step away from really doing some damage and turning this lineup around. I am looking for it. I am anticipating it, folks. Before we end, foosball's the devil, and it's hot as hell, so it makes sense that football season is right around the corner. Are you doing fantasy football this season? I know I am. Have you given up and you're only doing daily fantasy now, and you yell at players behind internet avatars? Is that what you do? Is that what you do? No, I'm excited about fantasy football season coming up. Those of you who know me, those of you who've listened to the podcast, you know that I do a fantasy football league with my theater friends from back in college. It's such a fun league. It's one of my favorite things to do. Truthfully, it's a blast. I love it. I'm very much looking forward to it. Want to do something creative for the beginning of the season to kind of celebrate the beginning of the year in fantasy sports. I'm also, with last season, I let you know how I was doing in fantasy as the season went along. I did Pigskin Pick'em kind of with y'all this season too, so we will do that for this season coming up. Let me know what you're doing to prep for football season. Are you getting a chili recipe down or some grilling technique perfected? I've got my I've got my grilling techniques down. I have multiple chili recipes. Let me know if you're also grilling. Let me know if you're excited for football. I don't know why I ask you these things. I don't need to know all of it. You're told to do these things. I don't know. Let me know what you think about this, folks. And with that being said, that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast, the Paul Broadpod Ball Blog, or the Paulcast, whatever you want to call it. Please like, rate, review, subscribe, share, bop it, kick it, skip it, smash all of those buttons for me wherever you're listening to this on. We are a small podcast, and we only go as far as our listenership takes us. We are supported by listeners like you. Ding, 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 ding. So please share with the Houston fan or Australian in your life and give us a 5-star rating wherever you are listening to this on. It really helps us out a lot. Check out the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com, where you can be a free subscriber and get most of this content emailed to you directly for free. That is right. We don't like to put too much behind a paywall because I love to share my passion of Houston sports with all of y'all. If you would like to subscribe to support, please do that. Let me know what you think some of the perks could be, but for the most part, that's just a way to support me, support the blog and the podcast, and to help Carla get some more treats. You can also support by buying some merch. Aircraft carrier hats are out. Cam Smith hats are out. Don't sleep on Houston. Is also some of that merch is out, and we have some Carla the Dog hats coming out soon. Definitely, you can find that at paulsalazarjr.net. Let me know what you think, folks. Let me know if, what you're doing to prep for fantasy football season or football season. Reach out on social media at Space Cadet Sports, at spacecadetsports.bsky.social, or you can call in and let me know your takes at SpeakPipe. That's speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. If you've made it this far and you like sports, but you're also like, hey, I kind of like that Paul guy too, say no more, fam. I make weird jokes all over the internets. You can find me on social media making jokes, memes, art, podcasts, and so much more at Paul Salazar Jr. Or you can check out my website as mentioned earlier, paulsalazarjr.net, because I'm nothing but net. Where you can find my other Substack where I write about movies, pop culture, comedy. You can find my other podcast where I talk about Saturday Night Live and so much more nonsense if you're nasty. paulsalazarjr.net. Thank you so much for supporting me. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos Houston.
Houston Astros, Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.